Hey everybody, my name is Jim Donnelly, technical agronomist with DeKalb Agro in Northern Illinois, and I'm here with Rachel Willis, also technical agronomist for Northern Illinois. And we've been out digging roots in a SmartStax Pro trial today again, but we wanted to stop and talk a little bit, kind of give an agronomic update here for the week. And we wanted to focus a little bit first on just really disease management and fungicide applications, etc. So, Rachel, right now we're kind of in the heat of things as far as making fungicide applications. Some have already gone on, some are still yet to come. Can you give us a little bit of an update on maybe what we're seeing out there for disease and maybe what we should expect?
Yeah, so one of the great things about you dragging me into SmartStax Pro trials constantly is I get to scout for disease while I'm out there digging up stuff,
Ditto.
which is nice. So out here, we stepped into this plot here, and we actually found quite a few different diseases out there. So there's kind of the normal gray leaf spot. I think we find that every year this time of year. It's certainly easy to find that one. As we move further south, it's been out there probably a little bit longer because we've been a little bit wetter there, in some of my territory. And so it's pretty easy to find it pretty far up the plant. We also found a little bit of northern corn leaf blight out here. For the most part, I don't get worked up over northern corn leaf blight just because we have such good genetic resistance there. But we certainly found it. To me, that just means that we've had very good conditions for that, for fungi in general. Let's see, the big one that we found out here was tar spot. We've been able to find it here and there just about in a lot of fields that we've gone to, but out here it really has progressed quite a bit more than in some of the other fields that I've looked at last week, the week before. So
and so you guys know we're in western Carroll County, just as a matter of perspective.
Yeah. So even in my territory, last week I found some in Peoria County. It was just very little here and there, but I do think that it started to kind of move up the leaf or up the plant. So we kind of found it mid canopy right now. Jim and I were kind of discussing, I think it probably is 100% incidence, but pretty low severity. So I'm not super concerned about it right now, partly because I think not everybody, but a lot of our customers have been using fungicide. And, part of my message is, you guys, I think you made a really good choice on, all the fungicides that we've put out there. Or if you are still on the fence, we certainly have the pressure out there to use a fungicide. The other thing that we saw out there was physoderma. A little bit of physoderma on the leaves right now. I haven't found any that's infected the node. You can get that late season. You can get some physoderma in the nodes, and it causes stalk breakage. Haven't seen that. So to me, physoderma, again, it's just kind of a signal that at some point we had plenty of moisture there in the whorl for us to get that infection. Very low incidence and fairly low severity also.
But of all the diseases that we found out here, it's probably, what's the major one that we're concerned about of the ones that we saw?
So to me, honestly, gray leaf spot, we always find gray leaf spot, and it's really moving up the canopy. But then tar spot is also kind of a concern just because we don't have as good of resistance, good
Exactly.
as genetic resistance. So if I'm going to be out spraying for something, I'm really targeting tar spot and gray leaf spot, just because tar spot's a threat to us, and gray leaf spot is a constant threat.
Yep. And the other thing we always have to think about is there's always a latent period for all these diseases, which means that there's a time period between the infection that you get and then actually seeing the disease develop. So, as you walk out there today, there's disease that's taking place that you cannot see, that you'll be able to see in 12, 14 days, just depending on the particular disease. So, walking through this field, looking at the tar spot, the levels that we see there, if it was not sprayed with a fungicide from here on out, I might be concerned, because there is a long time between now and harvest, or the end of ear fill. And with the virulence that tar spot has, it certainly can pick up in a big way. So really, back to your point about people that have sprayed fungicide, especially in these areas that are seeing, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, the other thing, Jim and I are out here, it's ridiculously humid and pretty warm, and fungi likes, we have some happy fungi out here right now. tar spot does like slightly cooler conditions, but this morning when I left my house, I drove through fog for probably 45 minutes.
Yep.
And when you have those slightly cooler mornings with plenty of fog, that creates a really nice environment also. So anytime I leave my house and I see fog, it always makes me think about really ideal conditions for fungal growth. And I mean, I might be the only person that associates fog with fungi, but
Nope.
okay,
Me
we might be the only people that associate fog and fungi, but we've certainly had some very good conditions. So to Jim's point, there's plenty of infection that's already taken place that's just kind of sitting there waiting to show up.
And I would add just a couple more things. We always think that diseases need rainfall to get to really become a problem, and it's not necessarily the case. So diseases like gray leaf and even tar spot, sometimes humidity is a much bigger factor than the rainfall itself. Rainfall is probably important for actually getting the disease going, but actually propagating it and making it into a big problem, humidity and actually light quality can be a pretty big deal. The second thing, when we look at, you mentioned the cloudy days and stuff, so we've had a decent amount of cloudy days in the recent past. The other thing that's made the news is the smoke cover and just reduced sunlight as a result of that. So that can also play into disease development as well. So just a couple other things to think about for disease, and probably a couple more reasons to really nudge towards using a fungicide.
Yeah, I think I feel like I've talked with a lot of people who have already made that choice.
Yep.
And I feel like this year we can feel really good about making that choice. Yep. So the other thing Jim mentioned that we did, besides being out scouting for disease, one of the things that we both love to do, we also went out and dug some roots up. So do you want to talk to us a little bit? We've already discussed this in our last update, but you're seeing a little bit more pressure on second year corn. And the other thing that I remember we didn't talk a whole lot about was other methods of control, like adult beetle control. I think that we really need to get into the habit of thinking about using kind of an integrated approach and multi-pronged approach to managing rootworm at this point.
Yep. And for the record, I don't enjoy digging roots in 90 degrees. I actually hate it. But so yeah, I mean, when we look at, I guess first of all, just to kind of summarize, some additional things that we're seeing. So historically, over the last several years, the pressure buildup has been on those long-term corn acres. Absolutely. That's 95% of the cases where we had, extremely high amounts of rootworm. This year it's a little bit different, especially as you go to the eastern part of the state, where we're seeing a lot more second-year corn that's having a decent amount of injury, and there's a lot more acres of second-year corn, so we're seeing a decent amount more, acres, I guess, impacted from that. So I would say that is a little bit concerning regarding the number of acres that can impact. Going forward, it's really important that one, we manage beetle populations just merely for silk clipping for this year's crop. So there's tons of beetles out there. So really the threshold for silk clipping and pollination is 5 beetles per plant at 50%. 50% pollination hasn't been completed yet, and within a half an inch, silk clip within a half an inch of the ear. I personally, my experience is hold pretty good with that beetles per plant, especially as you get into drier scenarios where silks don't push as fast. I would really focus on the beetles per plant, and that includes the whole plant, not just on the silks. That's the entire plant. So 5 beetles per plant, and active pollination taking place. The other thing to think about, though, is really, comprehensive rootworm beetle management. And one thing that I would say is, when I look around at some of the issues that we've seen is, one thing that stands out is if there were different, other management tactics that were utilized, other than just relying on traits, that's made all the difference in the world. So whether that is managing the adult beetles the year before, to reduce egg-laying populations, or whether that was, potentially using a soil-applied insecticide, something like that. If something else was used, that did help tremendously from a management standpoint. But when we think about, controlling beetles, that is a fairly easy way to reduce the overall population and reduce the pressure in a given field. That involves scouting.
Mm-hmm.
That involves going out and looking and seeing what kind of pressure that you have. And there's a fair number of fields in northeastern Illinois that have many, many beetles per plant. And it only takes, around a half a beetle per plant to yield economic damage the following year. So, bottom line is, if you're seeing several beetles per plant, that has the potential to really overwhelm anything next year. So it's a very good idea, especially if you're making the trip with a fungicide application, to go out and look, see what kind of beetle pressure you have. If it's high and there's any chance that you're going to go to corn, please include an insecticide targeting those rootworm beetles, and that will help suppress the population for next year.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that summary. As I think about rootworm control, I think that we need to start thinking about it like we would managing any other difficult problem, such as weeds. We have multiple things that we do throughout the season to control our weed pressure, and I think we need to start thinking about that for rootworm pressure. Now, in my geography, we don't have as big of a problem. I mean, I've been called out to a few fields, but we're not seeing the pressure you're seeing. But I also don't want to get to the point that your territory is facing. So I think I would challenge my territory to also think through, monitoring that pressure, being out there scouting, and thinking about what we need to do so that we don't get to a bigger problem.
Yep, absolutely. And hey, we're really excited that we've got a new rootworm trait coming down, or it's going to be available this coming year for 2022. So that's exciting. But that doesn't change the fact that we need to implement a more integrated, holistic rootworm management system.
Yep.
And just like you said, it involves multiple things: rotation, managing adult populations, including traits.
Yep. Good. Anything else that you want to add, Jim?
I don't think so at this point, I guess.
Yeah, so kind of a shorter update, but the key takeaways for me are: be out there scouting. If you haven't decided on a fungicide yet, take a look in your fields. You probably have a lot of fungi out there. And while you're out there, take a look for some rootworm beetles. Do a little bit of scouting there also. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.